Begin in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan Finch, and I want to welcome you to the April 25th, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer hearing. I'll be presiding as the hearing officer over today's agenda. Let me start by introducing Mr. Hisney. He is with the Development Services Department, and he will go over other staff members we have that will participate in today's hearing, as well as any changes we have to today's agenda. Mr. Hisney.
Thank you. Tom Hisney, Development Services staff. To my left, I have Carmen Mason with Development Services. To my far left, we have Israel Monsanto, also with Development Services. During the course of the meeting, we'll be joined by other staff members, planners with Development Services for the different cases. They'll be joining us virtually. Also, during the course of this hearing, we will be joined virtually by County Attorney staff, Cameron Clark and Mary Dorman. With that, I will read into the record withdrawals and continuances from this hearing. Item A1, Special Use Application 21-1344. The applicant is Crown Castle USA. This application has been withdrawn by the petitioner. Item A2, Variance Application 22-0079. The applicant is John Saldana. This application is being continued by staff to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A3, Special Use Application 22-0294. The applicant is Brandon Bro Food Group Incorporated. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the June 21st, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A4, Variance Application 22-0349. The applicant is Todd Pressman. This application has been withdrawn by the petitioner. Item A5, Variance Application 22-0350. Applicant is Jennifer Ronenberger with Go Permit. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A6, Special Use Application 22-0368. The applicant is Tampa Electric Company. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A7, Variance Application 22-0446. The applicant is TSP Companies, David Wright. This application is being continued by staff to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A8, Special Use Application 22-0466. The applicant is Alan Ruiz with Vertex Development. This application is being continued by staff to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A9, Special Use Application 22-0476. The applicant is Fat Beet Farm Marketplace and Bakery. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A10, Special Use Application 22-0511. The applicant is Vic Grenowitz. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Next item is A11. It's Variance Application 22-0532. The applicant is William Sokol. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the June 21st, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Next item is A12, Special Use Application 22-0539. The applicant is RJR3 Liquors Incorporated. This application has been withdrawn by the petitioner. Item A13, variance application 22-0550. The applicant is Holbert Homes. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. Item A14, special use application 22-0608. The applicant is WPG Double Branch LLC. This application has been withdrawn by the petitioner. Item A15, variance application 22-0665. The applicant is Eric Freeman with GC Tampa Linebaugh Owner LLC. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. And the last item is A16 Special Use Application 22-0656. The applicant is Jonathan Moreno. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 23rd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hisney. I appreciate it. All right, let me start by going over our hearing procedures today. Our hearing today consists of agenda items that require a public hearing by a land use hearing officer. I'll conduct a hearing on each agenda item and will file a decision within 15 business days following today's hearing. Our hearing is informal. I'll ask questions related to the scope of testimony. I may call and question witnesses as I deem appropriate, excuse me, and I will decide all questions of procedure. I'll take evidence, but will exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in written form, and all testimony must be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding by me unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil action. We have two types of agenda items on today's agenda. We have variances, that's the beginning of the agenda, and then the end of the agenda are special uses. So the order of presentation is the same with the exception of the beginning. For variances, the staff goes first. Development Services goes first and presents their findings regarding the application. In the case of special uses, the applicant goes first. So those are the two differences. Then from there on, we'll go to proponents. Proponents, anyone who would like to speak in favor of an application, total time 15 minutes. The same is true when we go to opponents. If there's anyone that would like to speak against an application, total time 15 minutes. We'll then go back to Development Services staff who will have 5 minutes to make any additional comments based on today's testimony. And then finally, we'll go back to the applicant. The applicant has the last word for rebuttal, and that is a period of time of 5 minutes. If you are going to speak, if you are in the room or virtually participating virtually online, if you could give us your name and address for the record when you begin. We are recording this hearing and we want to make sure that we have who is talking to what agenda item proper, excuse me. So if you are in the room and you have finished your presentation or your comments, if you could see Allison to my right, she is with the clerk's office, and sign in also with your name, address, and the application number that you spoke to. Let me turn to the county attorney who will explain your legal requirements for appealing a decision made by a land use hearing officer. Not sure which county attorney we have online.
Good morning, Ms. Finch. Cameron Clark, Assistant County Attorney. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you. Go ahead.
This land use hearing officer public hearing is for variance and special use requests. This is the time for interested parties to present evidence and testimony. Once the hearing officer has closed a case, the record of that case is also closed and no new evidence regarding that case may be submitted thereafter. Any decision by the hearing officer may be appealed to the Land Use Appeals Board. Should a decision of the hearing officer be appealed, the evidence and testimony presented at this public hearing will be the only evidence that is subject to review by the Appeals Board. In reaching a final decision on petitions, the Appeals Board will only consider the decision of the hearing officer and the record that's made at today's public hearing. If an appeal is filed, the Appeals Board hearing shall consist of oral argument by the party to the decision, by county staff, and by any interveners, each of whom may be represented by legal counsel. The following shall abstain to appeal a decision of the hearing officer or to intervene in an appeal. First is the applicant. Second is anyone who appeared before the hearing officer, presented testimony or other evidence, and is adversely affected by the hearing officer's decision. It's the role of the County Attorney's Office to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is allowed before the appeals board that was not presented to the hearing officer at today's hearing. The County Attorney recommends the appeals board disregard evidence or testimony that is outside the record made at today's public hearing. Any evidence presented to the appeals board that is outside today's record could jeopardize the legality of the appeals board decision, and the presenter of that evidence could hurt their own cause. The safest course of action then is for you to write the comments that you make today and to repeat those comments to the appeals board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I appreciate it. As I mentioned, all testimony must be under oath. So if you are in the room or online and plan to speak today, please stand, raise your right hand, and I'll swear you in. Do you swear to tell the whole truth? Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Hisney, if you could call the first case, please.
All right, so today we have no vested right cases, no fee waiver requests, no remands, no reconsideration requests, no site development variances, and no sign variances. So that will take us to section H of the agenda, which are general variances. First case is item H1, application 22-0493. The applicant is Duck Fan. They're requesting a variance to the fence requirement. Staff findings will be presented by Isis Brown.
Good morning.
Share my screen. Good morning, Isis Brown, Development Services, presenting application variance 22-0493. The applicant requests a variance to fence height requirements to accommodate a proposed fence on a vacant property zoned RSC 6. Per LDC section 6.07.02 C.1, a minimum fence height of 4 feet is allowed in required front yards, except under certain circumstances that do not apply in this case. A maximum fence height of 6 feet is allowed in the remainder of the property. Per LDC section 6.01.01, a 25-foot front yard is required in the RSC district. The applicant requests the following variances: a 2-foot height increase to the maximum fence height permitted in the required front yard along the west 122nd Avenue to allow us 6 feet for a proposed fence on the northern line of the northmost 25 of the west property line, which is indicated in the red. And then a 4-foot increase to the maximum fence height permitted in the required front yard from West 21st Avenue to allow a 8 feet for a proposed fence on the northerly 25 feet of the east property line, and a 2-foot increase in the maximum fence height permitted on the remainder of the property to allow an 8 feet fence, which is indicated in that green graphics. The Development Services have the following findings. The adjacent property to the east is zoned CN, commercial neighborhood, and developed with a shopping center. And the applicant plans to build a single-family home on the property per building permit HC BLD 21-002467. The approved site plan shows a removal of a number of trees on the property. However, a 45-inch grand oak on the east property line must be protected, as shown in the along the green line on the east property line. It jogs around that oak tree, and as shown and received on March 18, 2022. This ends my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Yes, Ms. Brown, I just want to clarify for the record. So the graphic you're showing, the line in red, that fence is proposed to be increased from 4 to 6 feet. And the line in green, part of it, I guess in the front yard, 4 to 8 feet. And then the remaining fence line in green would be 6 to 8 feet, but in total, everything in green would be 8 feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Is the applicant here? You can come forward, please. Good morning. Will you start by giving us your name and address, please?
My address is, you want the property address or my address now?
You can give the property address.
106 West 122nd Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 33612.
Thank you.
Can you please restate your name for me for the record?
Duke Vaughn.
If you could just tell us about the request and why you are asking for the variance.
I am on the east side. I'm abutting a commercial property. There's a lot of commercial vehicles that come in and out because of the lot itself. Also for security reason and privacy reasons. When we first got there, or when I first started building the home, there were, I haven't seen I seen beds, I've seen blankets there. So it looks like people have been living there for quite some time. I know when they have, I think about 17 to 19 cats that were there because the post office was feeding the cats and everything there too. So just for privacy and security for my family and things like that. That's my main concern, is that green line. The red ones were, because it's an 8-foot fence, if we have a 6, it probably just looked a little bit better, like through the overall site. But my main concern is just the privacy and security for my family for that green line.
Will it be gated along the street?
You mean where the front red line is?
Yes.
Yes, that's the plan. It's
Okay.
probably gonna be one of those gated, like electrical gate, but we probably have like some code or something if delivery or something.
I see.
Uh-huh.
And last question, the commercial use that's to the east of you,
Yes.
what do they have along your property line in terms of security fencing or something like that?
It's a alley, kind of like an alley where it's the back of a commercial building. But because that alley, they have a fence there was supposed to just block random people from coming in. They didn't fix the fence. I tried to contact the property management, but hasn't been good with the communication aspect of it. We were trying to get a letter to remove that tree, that 45-inch oak right there. So I got nothing in return from them. There's a fence there, gate that's supposed to block off people from coming in. So there's a hangout spot for a lot of the homeless and some of the characters there that I'm just not wanting my family to kind of be protected. I mean, like, there's only one homeless guy that the homeless guy that approached me. He was really nice. He was just like, you need some help or something. But other than that, we had a few that came up to us while my contractors were there trying to clear the land, and was, I don't know, I don't know if I can say the word harassment, but it's more of just bothering them. And I don't want that for my family to be in that situation.
So the shopping center fence is broken in some
Yes.
way that allows access to your property?
Oh, no, to that alley. So,
Oh, I see.
Yeah, to
And
the alley.
the alley is what's adjacent to your property?
Yes.
I
Yep.
understand.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes. I guess with the fence, I think it probably will increase the value in the community also, because like if you look at the subdivision and everything, most of it have those large fence that's surrounding. So I think it will help and everything. And I really did clean up the lot and everything and make it more visible for everybody. Yeah.
That leads me to one additional question.
Yes.
What will the fence be made out of? What's the material?
Vinyl.
So all the way around it's vinyl, white?
Yes.
Vinyl, like a PVC fence or something?
Yes.
I
Yep.
understand. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
But I think the front, I don't know, I need to ask the zoning. I don't know if I can do vinyl. I think the vinyl has to be like, I don't think it's like close together.
We could ask county staff what the regulations are.
Yeah,
for the
but
material.
I'll do whatever the regulation allow me to. I do have some pictures of like people been dumping and everything. I don't know if you want to see that or not.
You're welcome to show them. We do have an overhead, or if you just want to submit them into the record, I review anything that's submitted.
Yep, I can submit to record and then you can
Perfect.
see. Yep.
All
Okay.
right, thank you so much. If you could please sign in and then submit your documents.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this application? Anyone in support? Anyone online? No? Anyone in opposition to this request? No one online. All right, county staff, can you answer his question regarding the material of the fence?
Yes, Mr. Fawn? Yeah, the materials for your fence are anything that's a typical fencing material found in residential districts. It can be vinyl, PVC, wood, chain link, masonry. You cannot use like metal sheeting panels that would normally be used for roof or something like that. But anything that's a traditional fencing material is permitted.
All right, and so we'll go back to the applicant. Mr. Fine, when you're done, I just have one additional clarification for the record, but I have to have you on the microphone. So when you're done, I'll ask you a quick question and then we'll move on.
Real quick for an addition is you're not allowed to utilize barbed wire at all. Okay.
All right, I just, based on Mr. Hisney's response, I just want to verify. So it's your intent to use a vinyl fence
Yes.
for this property?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, then with that, we'll close variance 22-0493 and go to the next case.
All right, our next case is item H2, variance application 22-0572. The applicant is William Riley III. The request is a variance to lot development standards. Staff findings will be presented by Isis Brown.
Right. Oh, there's the share. Number 2. Okay. Good morning again. Isis Brown, Development Services, variance 22-052. The applicant is requesting a variance to the required rear and side yard setback for the proposed grounded mounted solar panels to serve an existing single-family dwelling on property zoned ASC1. Per LDC section 6.0103 I-11, ground-mounted solar panels in agricultural districts are limited to a height of 25 feet and must meet the required rear and side yard setbacks. Per LDC section 6.06.01, a minimum side yard setback of 15 feet and a minimum rear setback of 50 feet are required in AS1 zoning districts. The applicant requests the following: a 10-foot reduction to the required side yard setback to allow a side yard setback of 5 feet, and a 40-foot reduction to the required rear yard setback to allow a rear setback of 10 feet. I am available for any questions.
No questions at this time. Thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning. Can you please come forward? Thank you. Good morning. Can you start by giving us your name and address, please?
William Riley, 1616 Newburger Road, Lutz, Florida, 33549.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I don't really have much to add. It's very straightforward. I struggled with locating solar panels on our property on the roof. It was going to be unattractive, and frankly, the roof doesn't point in the right direction. If you notice the way I've got the panels set, they're facing directly south, which makes a huge difference in their solar collection efficiency. So I tried to find a place on the property where I could put them facing in that direction. That was the only corner that I could do it and still have. And one of my key issues was minimizing taking down trees and trimming trees. And if I have to push it out, and particularly to the 50 feet from the back line, it was going to push it way out too far into the yard, and I'd have to take down a bunch of trees to do that in order for the panels not to be shaded. So it just forced me back into that corner.
I see. All right. Well, you answered my question about the roof, because I think that's the obvious question is why isn't it on the roof?
Well, the other part of that is I'm part of an HOA and they really hate them on the roof. I
I see.
understand that I can put them there, but, they push back on that and I understand that.
And I have a copy of your aerial that it may not still be there, but the aerial that I have is dated from March of last year. And it looks like there's something in that corner of the property where you plan to put the solar panels. What is that? Do you have any?
That's a little pit.
All right, like a fire pit or something?
Yeah, like the fire pit.
I see. Okay. So obviously that would be removed and that's the general area where the panels
Yes,
go?
exactly.
Okay.
Mhm. And I do have hedge right now on the side and I'm growing a hedge on the back and the panels would only be around 7 to 8 feet high,
Okay.
well below the limits because I'm trying to keep them down as low as possible. And so they will be essentially not be able to be seen.
Have you talked to your neighbor to the
Absolutely,
east?
absolutely. Wonderful person and he was fully supportive. He's looking into solar at his house right now.
I see. All right. Well, that was the last of my questions, unless you have anything else.
Well, I'm a big supporter of solar. I worked for the power company for 48 years. In fact, burned coal at Crystal River Power Plant for most of those years. I was working for them and I hate it. Coal is a very dirty source and I think it's the right thing to do. And so I got excited about doing it. I want to go to electric vehicles and this would be a part of that plan.
All right. Well, thank you for coming down. I appreciate it. If you could please sign in with the clerk's office.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone that would like to speak either in favor in the room, online, or against this application? Seeing no one. All right. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, sir, nothing else before we close? Nothing to add? All right, thank you very much. Then with that, we'll close variance 22-0572 and go to the next case.
Our next case is H3, variance application 22-0577. The applicant is Christopher Fortner. They're requesting multiple variances, a variance to encroach into a wetland conservation area setback, a variance for an accessory dwelling, variance for accessory structure, variance to lot development standards. Staff findings will be presented by Tanya Chapella.
Good morning.
Sorry, good morning. Tanya Chapella, Development Services. The applicant is requesting variances to accommodate new living area, garage, and room that are proposed for an existing single-family home on property zone RS6. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a variance for an existing elevated deck that is attached to the home. Variance number 1 for the new living space. The required minimum side yard setback in the RS6 district is 7.5 feet. The applicant requests a 4.5 foot reduction to the required side yard setback to allow a side setback of 3 feet from the north property line. Variance number 2 for the new garage and mudroom. The required minimum side yard setback in the RS6 district is 7.5 feet. The applicant requests a 4.5 foot reduction to the required side yard setback to allow a side setback of 3 feet from the south property line. The last variance is for an existing deck. The required minimum side yard setback in the RS6 district is 7.5 feet. The applicant requests a 4.9 foot reduction to the required side yard setback to allow a side setback of 2.6 feet from the south property line. This concludes my presentation.
Madam Chair, Master, let me add that, the agenda is wrong and that this does not include a wetland setback variance. It's just the 3 variances that were described by Ms.
Thank you.
Chapella. Sorry about that.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, we'll go to the applicant. Is the applicant here? Morning.
Good morning, Chris Fortner, 12505 North Boulevard.
Thank you. If you could please describe your request.
Okay, so we're just essentially looking to increase the area on the property that we can build. I'm looking to add a garage on the south side. The way that the house was originally constructed, it didn't anticipate the addition of a garage. My car has been vandalized in the past, and I've found people in my driveway tugging on the door handle. And I don't know if it's because of the nature of my job, if I'm targeted, but I'd like to add a garage in this this variance to the setback would give us the ability, this is my mom, by the way, I'm sorry. She's the other person on the property. This variance to the setback would allow us to have a garage that's large enough to get one vehicle in. And the wetland setback, I think that came up because I had to get the EPC involved because behind my property is a pond. We're not looking to build anywhere near the pond. The deal with the deck, I've got a deck that's already constructed. My yard has a pretty significant slope. At the high side of the yard, the deck is essentially at ground level. But as the yard slopes, obviously the deck is higher off the ground. I've had some erosion over the years, and we've had to bring in rock to stop the dirt from eroding. The sun doesn't get in there, the trees cover it, so the grass doesn't grow, and we have to bring in rock. So at the low point of the yard, the deck is about 3 feet from the ground level.
So the garage well, let me start from the beginning. So it looks like from your graphic that these improvements, both on the north and the south side, don't extend the house closer to the street.
No,
You're
ma'am.
not, there's no proposal to do
No,
that.
ma'am.
So from a passerby standpoint, there'd be no noticeable difference.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then the garage extends to that wooden deck, is that right?
It would be, the garage would be close to that wooden deck, but the garage is to extend south 4 or 4.5 feet into the setback area, reducing the setback.
All right. And then lastly, have you talked to your neighbors about this request?
Yes, ma'am, I have, and I've got letters from them, signed letters, if I can add them, if you would like them as evidence.
Absolutely.
And I've got also a police report where my vehicle was vandalized in the driveway. Bring it to you.
Well, what you can do is if you're finished, when you sign in with the clerk's office, you can submit it to Allison and she will make it as part of the record and then I'll review it.
Okay.
Is that everything you wanted to say?
That's basically it. I would say probably 95% of the homes in my area have garages, and doing this would make my property more, consistent with the theme of the neighborhood as well. And obviously it would improve the value of the area and the property as well.
I see.
I'm sorry, I could go back to the 2-story structure that we're wanting to do on the north side. We anticipate that at some point we'll have to accommodate my mother, and that would give us enough living space for her to be in there.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming down. I appreciate it. If you
Thank
could
you.
please sign in and you're welcome to submit whatever you'd like.
Thank
into
you.
the record. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support or in opposition to this request? Seeing no one. County staff, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right, sir. Any last words before I close? Anything else you'd like to add before I close the application? All right, thank you. Then with that, we'll close variance 22-0577 and go to the next case.
That concludes our variances, so we'll move to section J of the agenda, which are special uses. The first item is J1, application 22-0227. The applicant is Mocha Asian Cuisine Incorporated. They are requesting a 2 COPR alcoholic beverage permit with separation waivers. Staff report and recommendation will be presented by Israel Monsanto following the applicant's presentation.
Yes, as I mentioned in special uses, the applicant goes first. So is the applicant here? Good morning. Please come forward.
I'm here.
Whoever would like to make the presentation,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome to speak. Good
Thank
morning.
you. Good
Give us your
morning.
name and address, please.
My name is Jay Romer, R-O-M-E-R. Applicant's address is.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't have you as a designated representative, so the property owner needs to approach the lectern and affirm that you are authorized to speak on his behalf.
Okay, that's fine.
You could just give us your name and address and just confirm that this gentleman can speak on your behalf.
Yes.
If you could come and give us your name and address on the microphone.
Yes, my name is Zhang Jichen. I'm the owner of the Mocha Asian Cuisine. So I let my friend talk to you guys because the language, my second language.
No
maybe.
problem. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you could please sign in though as well. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
I'm here on his behalf. He owns a restaurant, Mocha Asian Cuisine. located off of Boyette Road in Riverview in a strip mall that also has another restaurant and other businesses there, Domino's Pizza, et cetera. He's seeking the 2 Cop R license so that he can bring to his already amazing food, the Asian cuisine. He wants to be able to sell Asian beer to complement his creations. And when I say creations, they're not just serving Chinese food. These people are serving some serious food. The presentation, not only that, but they visit each table and they invite you to ask questions to learn more about the Asian culture and the food that you're getting ready to consume. The anticipated sales, their sales are about $1 million a year, okay, from that location. The anticipated sales of alcohol is low. It's anywhere between 1% and 5%. So while it's low, it's still going to have its impact as to the customer's desire to have the full experience of their, Asian experience. The restaurant has the ability of handling 46 customers at a time, dine in. It is located within a proximity of a library that's down the street. However, between the strip mall and the library is a massive empty field, okay? People are not going to be traversing through the mall or shopping center to get anywhere. They would be using the roads and the sidewalks. So don't believe that it would be interfering. They are not asking to sell liquor. So it won't be a destination for party goers or, people looking to consume a bunch of alcohol. So that's what they've asked me if I could present in their behalf. So they're hopefully requesting that this application permit can be approved so that they can bring this experience to their diners.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you could please sign in.
Thank you.
Development Services. Good morning.
Good morning. Development Services, Israel Monsanto. I have on the overhead the wet zone proposed by the applicant. As you can see, the request today is for a 2-Cup R, which permits the sale and consumption of beer and wine on and off the permitted premises, package sales in connection with a restaurant. And at least 51% of the restaurant's total biannual sales shall be derived from the sale of food and non-alcoholic beverages. Shown on the revised survey we received on April 13, 2022, the proposed wet zone area will be comprised of 1,625 square feet of indoor space. There is 2 distance separation requirements for a 2-Cup R. One is the distance from the proposed structure to certain community uses shall be 500 feet. And the other one is the distance from the proposed structure to residentially zoned property shall be 150 feet. Per the survey you have in your screen, there is a library, public library within 500 feet, which is depicted with the letter A. All other distance, the other distance requirement is being met. The applicant requests a 294-foot reduction to the required separation distance from the Riverview Public Library to the north to allow a separation of 206 feet. The applicant has submitted justifications. In summary, the applicant states that the shopping center is to the south of the library and faces away from it. There is undeveloped area, which is a TICO power line corridor between the permitted structure and shopping center and the library. People will have to walk through the shopping center and go to Bond Riverview Road to the east in order to get to the library, and the actual walking distance between the permitted structure and the library is much higher than the 500 feet. We found that the proposed restaurant is located in a commercial strip shopping center, which is a permitted use within the existing plan development, which is the zoning for the subject parcel. Commercial strip centers commonly include establishments that serve alcohol, and this particular commercial strip center has several existing wet zonings. The restaurants and shopping center are oriented towards the south, away from the library. And additionally, the proposed wet zoning will be separated, as noted, by a TICO-owned property. The normal route, which is a walking distance of travel from the proposed wet zoning footprint to the driveway entrance to the library property will be more than 1,000 feet, which greatly exceeds the required separation distance from certain community uses. Staff finds the proposed wet zoning consistent with the mixed-use character of the area in proximity to commercial uses. Existing shopping center is an established commercial site with other similar businesses serving alcohol. For these reasons discussed, staff finds the request approvable, and this recommendation is based again on the revised wet zoning that we received on April 13th. And the wet zone area will be up to 1,625 square feet of indoor space only. And Mabel, if you have any questions.
I just have one general question to ask if library services typically comments on these applications for the distance waiver.
We didn't find any comments in our records. We have not seen any at this point.
Okay. All right, I understand. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Seeing no one, anyone in opposition to this request? Is there anyone online? That's okay. All right, seeing no one, county staff, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right, sir, anything further before we close? All right, nothing from you. Then we'll close special use AB 22-0027 and go to the next case.
Next case is item J2, special use 22-0481. The applicant is Sunset Dreams Winery. They are requesting a 2 COP alcoholic beverage permit with separation waivers. The staff report and recommendation will be presented by Tim Lampkin following the applicant's presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you.
My name is Kara Ann Groves. I'm an attorney from Brewer Long PLLC. Our address is 407 Ocala Springs Road in Longwood, Florida, Suite 241. We're here on behalf of applicant Sunset Dreams Winery. They would like to open a micro meadery and winery at 234 Oakfield Drive in Brandon, Florida. Under the Florida statute, Chapter 561, that requires a 2 COP and an AMW. And under Hillsborough County Code, that requires us to get a special use and a conditional use approval. So the proposed location does meet the residential zoning requirements and the community uses. It is in compliance. It, however, did not comply with the 2 COP and surrounding AB permits. You'll see from the wet zone survey that I'm sure Mr. Lampkin will pull up that there's a total of, I think, 6 surrounding alcoholic beverage permits, 5 of which, however, are no longer in use. Essentially, all of those are either medical facilities or some other similar business commercial use. So unlikely that they will go back to an AB permit. For what it's worth, our firm did try to reach out to those owners, property owners, and get a voluntary rescission of those AB permits. We never heard back. But as I think Mr. Lampkin outlines, the only one in existing use right now is will not interfere commercially with our business. And we have received, we never received anything back from any of the neighbors to suggest that there would be any sort of conflict. So again, applicant Sunset Dreams Winery, we do have Mr. Jack and Ms. Stephanie here who are the owners of that, if you'd like to have them speak, but they would just like to have the AB waiver approved and the conditional use waiver approved as well.
All right, thank you. You've answered all my questions. I think that's, if you've reached out to them, you said you have, and that most of them in Mr. Lampkin's report talk about uses that perhaps don't have alcoholic, wouldn't have an opportunity to sell alcohol, period.
Yes, ma'am. And just to kind of be specific about that for the record, so there are 5 of the 6 are, let's see. We've got a Surgical Associates. We've got one that's vacant, Therapy and Sports Center, Orthodontics, and then the one that I think is still in use is Thai Chili Pepper.
I see. All right. I understand. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please sign in. Development Services, please.
Hello, Tim Lampkin, Development Services. The wet zoning is sought for Sunset Dreams Winery. It's located at 234 Oakfield Drive in Brandon, Florida. The wet zoning area will comprise a footprint of 1,224 square feet of indoor area, as shown on the revised wet zone survey received on March the 29th, 2022. As the applicant stated, the 2 COP requires 3 distance separation requirements. The first is that they shall be 250 feet from residential zone property. They comply with this requirement. The second is that they shall be 500 feet from certain community uses. They do comply with this requirement. And lastly, the reason they're here today is there shall be no more than 3 approved of a certain similar type within 1,000 feet. And they're requesting a variation of that. The applicant's justification is that there are multiple inactive wet zone permits within 1,000 feet of the proposed wet zoning. They are not currently utilizing their wet zone permits. Staff does find that there are of the 5 of the 6 total wet zonings of the relevant types within the 1,000 feet are not utilized by the uses which currently occupy those locations. And in some of these cases, it appears unlikely that the wet zonings will be utilized in the future. And the applicant just went over those. So for example, one of those is a Surgical Associates at 205 Moon. One is a Therapy and Sports Center located at 301 Robertson. There's Kelso Orthodontics at 401 Parsons, the Dog Patch located at 122 Lindsay, and an HSN outlet store located at 225 West Brandon. For these reasons, staff finds the proposed 2 COP alcoholic beverage permit to be approvable based upon the revised wet zone survey received on March the 29th, 2022, showing a total wet zone footprint of 1,224 square feet. And that concludes staff's presentation, unless there are any questions.
No questions at this time, but thank you. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Anyone in favor? Anyone in opposition to this request? Seeing no one, county staff, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right. Sir, ma'am? I've lost you. There you are. Anything else you'd like to add? All right, thank you. Then with that, we'll close special use AB 22-0481 and go to the last case.
Our final case today is item J3, Special Use Application 22-0500. The applicant is Ben Distributing Incorporated. The request is for a 2 APS alcoholic beverage permit with separation waivers. Staff report and recommendation will be presented by Sam Ball following the applicant's presentation.
Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Mark Tiller. I'm with the Tiller Law Group. I'm the attorney representing Ben Distributing. It's a convenience store located at 16824 North Gun Highway in Odessa. The client already operates with a 1 APS, which is just beer, and they're simply requesting a 2 APS to add wine. There is a requested separation waiver because there is a park that requires 500 feet distance, and it's only 178 feet. The community park is managed by Conservation and Environmental Lands Management staff. They reported they have no comment on the proposed wet zoning. We've received no objections from other reviewing agencies or noticed property owners in the area.
How long has the convenience store been in operation?
That's
approximately.
a good question. They have been there for quite some time. I'm not sure of the exact
Is it years or?
years.
Years,
Years.
okay. And is the building itself proposed to be expanded, or is it the same square footage?
The square footage of the building is 2,317 square feet, and it's not going to be expanded. It will stay the same.
Okay. All right. Those are my only questions, unless you have anything further.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. If you could please sign in with the clerk's office. Development Services, please.
Good morning, Sam Ball of Development Services. The applicant is requesting approval of a distance separation waiver for a 2 APS alcoholic beverage permit to allow for beer and wine to be sold in sealed containers for consumption off the licensed premises only. The wet zoning is requested for an existing convenience store at 16824 Gun Highway. The wet zone area will cover 2,317 square feet of indoor area with no outdoor area, as shown on the wet zone survey stamped February 1st, 2022. The property is zoned commercial neighborhood, which permits a convenience store in consideration of the proposed wet zoning. County records identify a historic 1 APS state alcohol license at the subject location, but do not show that the property is wet zoned. LDC section 61111D2, the following distance requirements apply to the proposed wet zoning. The distance from the proposed structure to certain community uses shall be 500 feet. According to the survey submitted by the applicant, the request does not comply with this requirement. The proposed wet zoning is 178 feet from Lake Rogers Conservation Park, located at 16016 Glen Highway. The distance from the proposed structure to residential property or residentially zoned property shall be 50 feet from the side yards and 20 feet from the functional rear yard. According to the survey submitted by the applicant, this request does comply with that requirement. The applicant is requesting a 322-foot waiver to the required 500-foot separation from the certain community from the community use in order to allow a separation of 178 feet from Lake Rogers Park. The applicant's justification include that the following: that the applicant is a well-established convenience store and wishes to obtain a 2 APS license for the sale of beer and wine for off-premises consumption only, and that there will be no significant negative impact on surrounding land uses as this business already operates with a 1 APS license. They only wish to add wine to increase revenue and better serve their customers. Customers will only be buying beer and wine for off-premises consumption. There will not be any alcohol consumption on the premises that would affect Rogers Park. Accordingly, Rogers Park will not be affected by the applicant's choice to obtain a 2 APS license. LDC section 61111E3 provides for approval of separation waivers where there are special or unique circumstances where the alcoholic beverage use applied for does not have significant impacts on the surrounding land uses, and certain circumstances negate the necessity for the specific distance requirements. Staff concurs with the applicant's justification regarding the distance waiver request for the community use. Rogers Park is managed by Conservation Environmental Lands Management staff who reported they have no comment on the proposed wet zoning. No objections were received from other reviewing agencies or noticed property owners in the area. The current 1 APS license allows for the sale of beer for off-premises consumption. The proposed wet zoning would expand the sale of alcoholic beverages to include wine for off-premises consumption and therefore represents an incremental change in the established use. The pedestrian and vehicular route of travel from the entrance of the convenience store to the nearest entrance of Rogers Park is approximately 1,400 feet in length. Additionally, only a small portion of the heavily wooded nature park is within 500 feet of the proposed zoning. For the reasons discussed above, staff finds the proposed wet zoning does not pose significant impacts on surrounding land uses, thereby negating the necessity for the prescribed separation requirements. Therefore, staff finds the proposed 2 APS alcoholic beverage permit to be approvable. Approval would be based upon the revised wet zone survey reflecting a total wet zone footprint of 2,317 square feet. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Seeing no one, anyone in opposition? No one. All right, county staff, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right, sir, anything else before we close? Nothing from you. All right, thank you. Then with that, we'll close special use AB 22-0500 and adjourn the hearing. Thank you all for your time and testimony.